All right, everyone. Now it's time to talk about the Michigan primary results at large, both for the Democrats and for the Republicans, because the two primaries have different meanings. Trump handily winning, coming in just below 70, so within the margin of error of the last few polls that we saw, so he performed about as expected. I think he would have preferred to be above 70 as opposed to just below it, but the margin of victory was significant. 69 versus Nikki Haley down there in the 20s. She's toast, but she's been toast the whole time, but nobody warned her about this fact. She never gave us concessions. She made good to her word. You know, one thing she didn't lie about. She's crazy enough to go on into Super Tuesday to lose every single state, and official prediction, Trump will win all of them by a significant margin. She'll then probably drop out because there's no longer any delegates to grab. Trump's run the field. Quite clearly, you're not going to get a boost from losing every state on Super Tuesday. The GOP voters will have spoken. On the Dem side, it's a little bit different. Joe Biden handily won, of course, and that was entirely predictable. He's riding up in the 80s. The problem is he's running unopposed, and Uncommitted managed to get almost 14% of the vote. I looked at the historical polling results in Michigan for the Dems for the last couple of election cycles. Uncommitted got 1.6 or 1.9% of the vote in the 2016 cycle. In 2020, it was about 1.2%, so not a whole lot of uncommitted voters. Some of them are like they don't like the mainline candidate. Some of them will be like, yeah, I just don't care enough. I don't know. Maybe there's multiple candidates that they kind of like, so they vote uncommitted. But it's a very small number of people. To get to 14% uncommitted, partially because of Dearborn Arab voters, is spectacularly a loss for Joe Biden. It's causing them to melt down right now. Alarm bells are ringing in the background at the White House right now as they try to plan their strategy politically going forward. Joe Biden cannot win, as a Democrat at least, in the state of Michigan while being pro-Israel. That's the problem. That voting bloc has become much, much larger than it was in, say, 2016. Dearborn effectively is a miniature Islamic caliphate. The problem is that all of the leadership there is calling for a boycott of Biden unless he does a 180 on foreign policy with regards to Gaza. And he can't do that. Or conversely, all of those Jewish voters, mainly in New York, by the way, a state that is becoming less and less blue by the day because of the migrant crisis and economic crisis mainly. Let's say you do 180 to salvage your chances in Michigan, which it's not clear you would win anyway since Trump is, almost 5 points ahead there in the matchup. It gets even worse for Biden when Cornel West and Jill Stein and RFK Jr. are factored in. Let's say you hemorrhage a couple 100,000 additional voters in New York. Well then, a state that's already been slowly inching its way towards swing state status, New York of all places. I don't think that Trump is going to be competitive in New York. Again, though, on election night, we're really going to be looking at that margin. I have a feeling it's going to be closer than historical recent norms. I have a feeling that it might not even be in the double-digit range, and boy, oh boy, what a goddamn rebuke of the Democratic Party that would be. If you end up with all of the Jewish voters in the Long Island region deciding, hey, we're uncomfortable with this. Now all of a sudden Joe Biden's, gung-ho for Gaza or something like that, it'd be a real big problem. And again, reabsorbing that 14 points of support in Michigan is hyper important. I don't think that Biden has a path to victory without Michigan, actually. Georgia and North Carolina are no longer up for grabs. It looks like Nevada's going to go steeply red. Well, then you need Michigan. You have to win all the other states in order to hold the line. Joe Biden is behind in I think all of them other than Pennsylvania, and that one's razor close. It's within a half a point. Where's Biden going to pick up the votes to win? There aren't enough ballot machines to go brrr. Certainly not in Georgia. Well, there's one big state that's off the table. I don't even think Biden will bother to campaign there if he campaigns at all. Of course, he's setting up to campaign from his basement again, just like in 2020. He'll have sporadic meetings with people and hope that there aren't too many cameras around the next time he falls flat on his face or something like that, or trips up the stairs, or down the stairs, or on a sandbag, or on his own feet, or on his words. He trips over those on a regular basis. The uncommitted vote probably should have Democrats more alarmed than some of them seem to be. Some of them are like, oh, it's nothing, it's just a protest vote. I'm sure that in the general, they won't do this. Some of them will, probably, yeah. And considering how close the margin was and how far Trump is ahead of his polling in 2016 when he won the state, I would think that you should take that more seriously. I just don't know that you can overcome it. I don't think there's necessarily anything that they can do. With Hispanic voters lurching off towards the right at the moment because of the border crisis mainly. Again, in Nevada and Arizona, that's southwestern states, especially Arizona that actually is on the border, it's becoming a big thing. The uncommitted voter thing. I like it. Some of the TDS sufferers are like, oh, Trump didn't even get 70% in a two-person race. What a loser. Your boy ended up hemorrhaging a legendary amount of support towards an uncommitted, effectively protest vote on a single issue in a state where he's 4.5 points behind in the matchup polling for the general election and has run behind for a substantial period of time outside of the margin of error. That should make you alarm. But these people are so convinced that Trump is going to be disqualified by SCOTUS or by the states, or that he's going to have multiple felony charges and he'll be found guilty. Dude, did you see the new poll yesterday? According to a new poll, he would gain a few points of support if he's actually found guilty of one of the charges against him. Which makes sense, since Engeron threw the books at him and it didn't affect polling at all. If anything, he got a little bit of a bump. Nikki Haley's nowhere to be seen, so the primary is effectively over. It's the general election. Trump knows this. Biden knows this too. Biden is still pondering whether he wants to show up at the convention and say, yeah, I'm your man, thanks for renominating me, and we're going to go beat Orange Man. Or whether he wants to say, oh, fuck, I'm tired and haggard, and look at me, I'm old and shriveled. Let me go back out to pasture and, maybe I'll live long enough so the Secret Service will let me get behind the wheels of a car again, or something like that. I want to eat more bran muffins and ice cream and shit. The ice cream diplomacy thing doesn't work, by the way, on Gaza, so, he'll have to reponder that strategy, too. I mean, looking at the Michigan results, it could not be worse for the Democratic Party. And this could trickle down ballot. They might decide, hey, it ain't just Biden. Whole party signs on to support the Israelis. Let's punish the whole party. God, you could see quite a few seats go red in Michigan. You might end up with a fully red legislature or something like that. It'd be hilarious. Dearborn starts electing Republicans or something like that. Now, ideologically, of course, it'd still be on the far left. It's just it'd be punishing them in a partisan manner. It would just be highly amusing. Can't imagine that a Republican candidate who wasn't Islamic would be able to win there, but yeah, you could see. It'd be funny if it was a Jewish candidate running in Dearborn or something like that. Biden would have a real hard time figuring out exactly how to give his endorsement. It's just like when he goes to East Palestine a year late. When he shows up to the border tomorrow, competing with Donald Trump very, very visibly, the strategy just sucks. And the fence riding on Israel v. Palestine sucks too. On the one hand, they're admonishing Israel, you're going too far, but then you throw them a bunch of money. You say, well, we're concerned about the civilian casualties in Gaza, but then you don't seriously press for a ceasefire. This sort of wiggle room fence riding diplomacy, when you ride on the fence, it might go up your ass. That appears to be what the Michigan voters did to Biden just last night. Oh, I was amused. When I went to bed, it was about the same margin. I'm like, if I wake up and it's still above 10%, I'm going to faint laughing. Well, yeah, I had a good chuckle this morning when I turned the computer on. We'll just put it that way. That's about all. Peace out.